Kobolds like treasure. Goblins are crazy little hobos that want to gnaw at your toes. Zombies won't go down unless I'm the one using them, in which case they are complete pushovers and fall down at the first sight of a gentle breeze, and then I'm sitting here questioning what I'm doing with my life. And skeletons exist. Out of all the D&D cannon fodder minions that I can come up with, skeletons have nothing interesting or otherwise memorable going for them. People will remember a really hard fight with a group of zombies, or having to deal with a group of kobolds and their stockpile of treasure, or a group of goblins being goblins, but when it comes to skeleton fights, they lack. Goblins have nimble escape, and they also have their crazy feral personalities. Kobolds have pack tactics, and they also have their crazy personalities of stockpiling and looting treasure. And zombies have undead fortitude, an ability that is so simplistic and so well designed that you can put it onto anything and make it a zombie, but at the same time is incredibly frustrating when it comes to dealing with it as a player or when you're me as a DM. And what do skeletons get? An immunity to exhaustion, I guess, and a bludgeoning weakness. Skeletons suck. That's just flat out the easiest way I can explain that. The closest thing to a classification that I can give a skeleton is it's a weaker zombie, because it effectively fills the same role that a zombie does, but with worse stats and worse abilities, or lack thereof abilities. But dang it, I think skeletons can be so much better. Those spook memes didn't die for nothing, you know. And what I found when trying to look up this topic in trying to figure out how to make skeletons better, I found three really big things. Skeletons fall apart very easily. The best ones have a ton of charisma or personality to boot, and it makes you easily remember them. And they often try to look spooky, but let's be real, guys. Skeletons aren't actually spooky. We just say they're spooky to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. The notion that the skeleton that's inside all of our body, it's just a bone dude piloting a meat mech. It's not actually scary, it's humorous. So, I've come up with a couple of ways to help spice up your skeletons in the next D&D campaign, so when your players venture down into that dungeon, instead of just being like, oh, it's a bunch of skeletons, they can be like, oh geez, a bunch of skeletons, and it leads to a lot more memorable campaigns. First, and probably easiest, is give skeletons the zombie ability of undead fortitude, but reflavor it so that, oh, you knock their head off, but they rolled successfully, so now they can just get back up. This is probably the easiest way to handle the problem, and it doesn't lead to much confusion because it's effectively taking a ability that already exists in the game and putting it on another minion. The downside to that is two things. One, it really steals away what makes zombies zombies, and it doesn't give skeletons their own personality. It just makes them better in combat. And on that note, it also doesn't necessarily spotlight how undead vary in their abilities. Zombies are one of the few that has undead fortitude. Zombies are way different from revenants, or way different from skeletons, or way different from liches. So do this if you're feeling lazy, but if you're not feeling lazy, here are my other two suggestions. Okay, so this first one's kind of a homebrew that I just came up with on the spot to kind of give the skeletons something to do. So if this seems a bit busted in any way, modify it however you wish. Now, the skill I gave them to make them stand out is called Show Some Backbone. Original, I know. Skeletons fall apart super easy. That's something that almost every media showcases that they do. So I figured that this is one of their most memorable feats. How can I make that interesting? And what I did is this. Show Some Backbone is a passive ability that can be activated when a skeleton reaches half health, or what's commonly known as bloodied. For this to work, I suggest buffing the HP of the skeletons from 13 to a more easy to divide number, such as 14 all the way up to 20. I wouldn't go much higher than 20 because then you're starting to lose the realm of simple cannon fodder minions, so don't go higher than 20. This might get a tad ridiculous if it's at 20, but again, this is for your own tweaking nature, and also I'm the guy who thinks zombies are the most ridiculous simple minion to throw at people, so take it all with a grain of salt if you wish. When the skeleton is at half health or lower, it can use its action to pick up a body part that it has lost during combat or the body part of another skeleton. Doing so will grant it the ability to regain HP, which can be figured out through a simple d6 roll, or you can just make a basic flat amount. Honestly, the HP that is regened is kind of up to the DM's discretion as to how much is done, and this isn't necessarily set in stone. For balancing reasons, once the skeleton isn't at half health, it can't use this ability anymore because we obviously still want skeletons to be that low-level cannon fodder minion that you can throw a ton of at the party. But I think by giving it this, it allows for a slight increase not only in threat level, but also in skill level for dealing with it, while also making sure that the damage to healing output is simple and not too extreme, because again, this is just a skeleton, guys. We're not trying to make an insane colossal of a minion, though reworking this ability to make a skeleton colossal sounds really cool. Personally, I don't think this is too busted, but if you guys think it is, again, call me out for it in the comments or whatever. Do whatever you want with this. This one's on me. The final option on how to spice up and salt those bones of yours is to do something that I think a lot of people overlook. Give them the ability to speak and let them have personalities. I understand that the whole gimmick behind skeletons is that they're undead minions that are mindless and follow orders as to what they're told, and they don't really speak, they just kind of do. But we don't really remember skeletons because we just remember zombies for doing that kind of thing, and while skeletons help with spells like Animate Dead, they're kinda still just the minion that everybody just doesn't really bother using because they're forgettable. And that's partially because they have that stale gimmick of their mindless servants. Allowing skeletons the ability to emote and communicate will lead to slightly more interesting combat, as it will allow you to have some undead with feelings, and I get that feelings are a thing that we don't like to discuss here on the internets, but in your actual in-person D&D game, it can lead to a really cool encounter, kind of like how goblins have mindsets or kobolds have mindsets. You can give the skeletons a mindset outside of, grrr, I'm a skeleton and my stats don't compensate for my lack of abilities, grrr. And at the minimum, you can let them talk. So if you still want to go with that whole mindless route, they can just say, yes, we're doing this thing because we were told to do this thing. Go do the thing. As opposed to them just being silent, shattering, bone-rattling dudes that don't strike fear into anyone because they're skeletons. I think doing any of these three things will definitely add some spice to your skeletons, but I definitely prefer the lower two, as it allows the DM to be more creative with the way they handle their throwaway minions. Because just because they're cannon fodder minions doesn't mean they have to have nothing from them. And I think by helping buffing skeletons, we can give them the swollen, super dapper skull men feeling and vibe that these guys should definitely have. As always, let me know in the comments if you think this worked, or if you think this was a foolish and boneheaded move in me rattling such up an idea. Or just report me for making terrible bone puns, even though it's not Spooktober. That's all I got for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.